What is going on, everybody? For the 14th time this season, welcome back to another edition of Victory Monday live here on the Phaithful Phanatics show. Guys, we are streaming to you on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channels. If you are new to the channel, do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Make sure to smash that follow button on the Twitter page at DSM_media is where you can find us. Then check out the link tree in our bio. It will take you directly to every other social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive, get your comments put up, get your thoughts, questions, concerns, positives, whatever you guys want to get into tonight. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's the best and only spot for us to see your comments through StreamYard here. So subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends, family, any other Philly sports fans that you know of. I'm one half your host, Dylan Davis. To my left, my faithful co-host, Scotty. The Eagles wrap up the 2024 season with a 14-3 record after a 20-13 victory yesterday over the New York Giants. Tanner McKee, EJ Jenkins finding the end zone. What a game. What a game it was. But the regular season is now behind us, man, and we are officially locked in 2-7 matchup in the wild card round this Sunday at 4:30 at the Link, taking on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, your initial thoughts, worries, positive, if you're happy playing the Packers versus what could have been Washington, etc. We can get into that. We'll get into keys later on throughout the week. But my man, happy playoff time.
Yeah, happy Victory Monday, happy playoff postseason. I am interested to hear everybody's thoughts, especially on that last part you said. Whether one would rather play the Commanders or would they rather have played the Packers? Because, obviously going into that game on Sunday, or going into the games on Sunday, the idea was most likely we were going to play the Packers. But, as Sunday was starting to play out, there was a little bit of, we might play the Commanders the way things were looking. So it was interesting to see how it played out, in those final minutes. And I'll say this, man, I think, when you're watching those last final moments and you are starting to really finalize who your opponent's going to be, I think your true thoughts really start to come to your mind as well. And I'm just saying that from my own personal experience, because as I was watching the games, and it's nothing about what was happening in those said games. Yeah. But as we started approaching, finalizing our opponent, I felt myself gravitating, wanting to play the Packers more. And I guess we could start there. I don't know if you want to get into the Giants game a little bit before, because I'm going to give you my reason why, but we could save it if you want to wait until later.
Get right into it. There's nothing to take away from the Giants game, man. I froze my ass off for 3 hours. It was a great day. Had a lot of fun. There's nothing obviously within the game that is worth noting. So we can get right into the bigger picture here if you want to.
Yeah, that's completely fine with me, man. And the reason, obviously, that I started to gravitate towards the Packers, not only obviously the injuries that were transpiring during the game, like you had Jordan Love have a wrist or an elbow or a hand injury, something in there on his throwing arm. You have Christian Watson go down with a torn ACL. So obviously they're a bit beat up coming out of week 18. But
Jair Alexander for the rest of the season.
It's not even all of that, Dylan. It's really, and I hate the way that it sounds, but there's just a lot more that comes with a division rivalry in the postseason.
Yeah, sure.
And your team, the other team knows you a lot better. You know them a lot better than you may know this other team that we're going to play in the Packers. And I think just from the standpoint of pressure, of losing to the Commanders in the postseason, that pressure I feel like is a lot higher than losing to the Packers. Now, it's not to say any loss is acceptable in the first round of the postseason this year. It's all going to be a disappointment no matter what. But I guess the best way for me to put it without sounding like a little punk, because I think the Eagles can beat anybody in the postseason. Let's get that out here in the forefront. But it is just that idea of playing a team within your division, and I really think it's their fans. I think it's their fans, and having to deal with their fans for a week leading up to the game would just really be annoying. Whereas Packers fans, one, I don't know that many Packers fans. Two, you're leading into the game. They're just not irrational. They're not as irrational as these Jaden Daniels stands that are running around right now. So I think it was more of a tolerance or an annoyance level type of thing with the Commanders.
How do I want to spend the rest of my week approaching this game?
It comes with pressure, though. I'm not going to sit here and lie about that. Against a division rival, it comes with pressure compared to a non-division rival.
I mean, regardless, it's win or go home. So there's always going to be pressure. But I think to your point, man, when we have way bigger aspirations and goals in mind with this team than just getting past wild card weekend, right? But that's the task at hand. And whether it was going to be the Washington Commanders or like it is with Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, I can honestly tell you I would have all about 3% of concern or like like the Eagles are not losing this week. It did not matter who it was going to be.
I do.
You add on the injuries, and not that like we're looking to play a lesser team because they're beat up and taking advantage of it and everything like that. But like Jair Alexander, their number one corner, is done for the year. Christian Watson is done for the year. Jordan Love is banged up, right? He's more than likely going to play. It's the playoffs, but he's banged up. He hasn't been playing good ball. They haven't been playing good ball. I think it was Ray Didinger, which is odd, man. Like I know how that station can be, and some of these stations can be, and the hot takes, and you say things to get clicks and everything. But Ray Didinger is a guy that has covered this team far longer than I've been alive, and he said something today about being concerned with the Packers because this is what they did last year, right? They were a wild card team that had to go on the road and play an NFC East team, and like they were under like 5-point underdogs or whatever, like basically making the storyline of what the Packers do. And then I forget again. I got to be better with remembering, these Twitter handles and who made the point to give the credit, but it was basically stating, it was a quote tweet stating like, the circumstances are just way different. First of all, put aside that the Eagles aren't the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
At this time, the last 5 games of the Packers season last year compared to where they are at this point of the last 5 games, way different. Jordan Love's numbers and production in the last 5 of last year to the last 5 this year, way different. They're nowhere near in the same boat. They are beat up. They are injured. They're not playing with that same swagger and intensity and competitiveness that they had. What it comes down to for me this Sunday, man, whether it was going to be either of these teams, I view them kind of in the same boat. So like I said, I just don't care. You did nothing in the regular season to make me fear you. You had opportunities. You beat 0 good football teams. The Green Bay Packers, like I tweeted this out last night, dude, because there are people like just a little bit concerned about having to play the Packers. They went 0-5 against the Eagles, Lions, and Vikings this year. Their best win is a walk-off field goal against the Houston Texans. They played and they beat nobody. They're beat up. There should be no concern other than the fact that for 60 minutes, you had the possibility of going home. Like, that's it. Like, in a win or go home, any spot, it's big, it's nerve-wracking. I get it. In terms of the opponent, I have literally less than 2% of concern for this Green Bay Packers team in my body.
Yeah, and I can get behind that idea because when I look at the Green Bay Packers, the simplest way I'll put this, because I don't want to like get into their entire team right now. We got an entire week left before we're going to get to this postseason game. We're going to have a pregame show, so I don't want to get into all of the details here. We'll still talk about it Friday as well, man. But the Packers are just a lesser version of what the Eagles are. They are very similar identities. They're similar teams, right? Like you got the Josh Jacobs in the backfield. He's been great this year. He's probably been the 3rd or 4th best behind those of Saquon and Derrick Henry's of the world. He's been great. You have some overachievers at wide receiver, right? They're not the biggest names in the NFL, but they can make plays. Jalen Reed can make plays. Tucker Kraft can make plays. They're a physical team. Their defense is solid. It's a very good defense. But when you look on the other side of the sidelines, the opposition, when you look at the Eagles, what do they have? Well, they have Saquon Barkley, who's better than Josh Jacobs. They have A.J. Brown and Smitty that's better than any receiving option on their team. They have Dallas Goedert, who's better than their tight end. They have an offensive line that is better than their so on and so forth. You can have a conversation about Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts. I'm taking Jalen Hurts over Jordan Love. I think this season showed that very clearly this year. And to my other point about the Commanders versus like the Packers and playing one or the other, I guess this is the simplest way to put it with that. Jaden Daniels is a much more dangerous quarterback than Jordan Love. I can't believe that I'm saying this early, but I do believe it.
And I'm not even a Jaden Daniels
guy.
Right? Believer, right?
Yeah.
But I do win or go home. One guy's across from you. Who would I rather not have to see? Between the two, it would be Jaden Daniels, and even
they have the better receivers too. In reality, Terry McLaurin.
One thing you hit on, man, that I'm glad you brought up. I do want to bring this up and kind of transition it into just reflecting on this 14-win season. Is it's less about who's across the field. Everyone, we can pick out concerns and how can we stop this and what can we do. It's less about the Green Bay Packers. Moving on, it's less about the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings, the Kansas City Chiefs. It's about this team, this patch right here, and how balanced and dominating and impressive they were this season. Focus on that. Put your energy into that. Put your confidence into that and look back on this 14-3 season in which they were a Saquon and Devontae Smith drop away from going 15-1. And that other loss, they didn't have two of their A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson. So they have 3 losses on record, man. And I can give you reasons / excuses. They lost the games. I get it. But I can give you valid reasons why this team could have been much better than 14-3. And that's how dominating they were. The resume is what the resume is. You walked in to Cincinnati and shut down the Triple Crown winner in Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, who threw for almost 5,000 yards this year. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, you went in their crib and beat the shit out of them. The Washington Commanders came here on Thursday Night Football. All the hype around Jaden Daniels, possibly his worst game of the season. The resume is what it is. This is the best team in football. It's the most balanced team in football for my money still.
Yeah, I think there's an argument, I guess, and I've heard, the big names out on the national stage argue it. It's the consistency week to week, I guess you could argue, between them and another top dog, right? And I say that as in not looking at ceilings and floors, right? Just looking at the output each week. But I say that to bring up this point, Dylan, man. As you watch this team throughout this season, didn't it feel like they just were holding back just a little bit? They didn't do, I don't want to say it the wrong way. It's not that they didn't have to try to win 14 games this season. They did. I get it. Or are we at 15? Am I tripping here? Am I getting the numbers? 15.
No, we're 14
and 3. 14 and 3. I'm getting confused with that added on week the last couple of years. But nonetheless, I'm not saying they didn't try hard, but what I am saying is I don't know if the offensive playbook was fully opened. I don't know if we saw Saquon Barkley hit his ceiling for one game output. I don't know that we saw A.J. Brown hit his ceiling this season for one game output. And that's kind of what I'm speaking to right now. We've seen the Lions last night. Gibbs has 4 touchdowns. He empties the tank to get that 1 seed last night. I don't think we've seen a game like that from the Birds yet, where they have just emptied the tank, specifically on offense, and really just opened the offense up, let Kellen Moore really get loose with his play calling. I don't think we saw that at all. We didn't see much of Saquon, 25 plus carries. We saw Saquon coming out on third downs. We saw Saquon coming out at the end of halves. That's not going to happen in the postseason, man. He's going to play every down. He's going to be out there for full quarters, full halves. Yeah. And I think we're going to get to see the ceiling of this offense, which it's not to say, once again, that they were holding back.
No.
It's more or less they just didn't have to show everything.
It's definitely a coaching style for sure, right? It could have to do with the playbook, but they're like you're talking about with the Lions specifically and some of these other teams that don't stop or slow down. Yeah. The Eagles are a bit more, I don't want to call it methodical because you can be methodical in different ways, but they bully you. And they like to run the ball. And if Nick gets a lead, if we're up by 13 late in the third quarter, we're going to control the ball for 9 minutes, which happened multiple times, and just bury you and not give you a chance to breathe again and get the ball back. And it reflects differently. It's not flashy. The points aren't, what some of these other scores are. I think it definitely has to do with coaching style and how they close out games like that.
Yeah.
But
they could have hit 45 points this season. They could have hit 50 points in games this year. They took their foot off the gas, and that's not a good or a bad thing. The Lions do it their way. We do it our way, to your point, coaching styles. But I can't wait to see the Eagles empty the tank on a team this postseason and see what that looks like.
And by the way, bro, I'm not saying this to mock other, I'm not saying this to laugh at an injury. And these teams had something to play for. They were positioning for seeding, a little different things, right? But go watch Saturday and see what happened to Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
And then tell me that Saquon Barkley should have been going for the record yesterday. Go watch Jaden Daniels get knocked out of the game. Go watch Jordan Love get knocked out of the game. Go watch Christian Watson have his season end yesterday. Now, they were playing in position
play for something.
They were trying to win. Baltimore, you were 20-point favorite. I don't know. I'm not. Again, it's whatever.
That's a tougher one, but
and then look me dead in the face and say that they should have played the starters yesterday. Go watch AJ Brown get it like that. It's Saturday night solidified it for me, man. I went to the game. I had a blast, froze my ass off, but no, there's no reason. There are people around me oh, could you imagine if Saquon comes out in uniform? And I'm just dude, shut up.
He's not. It's not
First of all,
smart.
he's not. And also, we shouldn't want him to, because that's what I came to the realization of. So I'm glad he didn't. But I bring that up, right? Not to talk down on who got injured, but you mentioned emptying the tank. Now, maybe we saw Saquon empty the tank against the Rams. 300 plus total yards was fucking insane to watch.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about going for the record and maybe it brings down morale, see, dude, this dude back in the playoffs where he had no success with his former team, doesn't get to go for the record. His line doesn't get to go for the record. And now he gets a home playoff game.
Yeah.
2 home playoff games. That's what I'm interested in, bro. That's what you're talking about. You could feed this dude the rock 32 times if you want to on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Try to stop it. And if you can, I watched them get Dallas Goedert implemented back in the game plan off of injury the other day. Or yesterday, excuse me. Looked pretty good. Remember him? We forget about him because there's so many other weapons. We forget about that guy. But he's back.
Dotson got a little rhythm yesterday. 94 yards. Everything helps, man. Everything helps, of course. Any additions that you can have to the offense.
But that's what I'm talking about. It is less about opponents. It is less about what they bring to the table, which stars they have, and it is about this team right here. And like you mentioned, with this upcoming week specifically, but we can take it a step further. And if you want to talk about the Rams or the Vikings or the Bucs or whoever it is, we can just take it position group, head to head. This team is going to come out on top 99% of the time, if not 100% of the time across the board. And that's why I'm so confident in this weekend.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you, man. And I think even last night, watching those NFC North opponents go at it, it was even more encouraging, man. When you look at the rest of the NFC now, obviously the Lions looked pretty good. But the Vikings were down in the red zone, down in the 5-yard line. How many times it didn't come away with any points?
And I'm glad you brought that up. Because, and again, it's not to go at those teams. It's to bring it back on this team. And you were talking about the individuals, right? That's what I like. That's what I'm just so fascinated thinking about, how our opponents are going to try to game plan for us. Because I was listening to I saw a clip on Get Up this morning talking about the game last night. And they were basically talking about how who's the D coordinator for the Lions?
Oh my God, Aaron Glenn.
Yep, Aaron. They were talking about how he made a decision to cut the head off of the snake, right?
Yeah,
they played man on Justin Jefferson. And they said they blitzed and they said, can Sam Darnold beat us? He couldn't. My point is, when you're talking about having a guy like 2-6 in the backfield and everything else that's scattered around, what are you going to try to do? Is the head of our snake Jalen in the passing game? Because if that's the case, And that's how you're going to attack. You're going to get bullied. Is the head of the snake our rushing attack? Because then if you try to load up and stop that, you know what's coming on the outside. That's why this team's so fucking dangerous and different from the past, man. We've had 1,000-yard rushers, but he is the difference maker. And I cannot wait to see him in playoff action, bro.
Yeah, you look at what Gibbs did to the Vikings last night. So, I mean, just imagine what Saquon would do.
Right, because other teams cannot do what the Eagles do on the ground. They just simply can't. Like, Aaron Jones ran pretty well for the Vikings this year. When they said, Sam Darnold, can you beat us? There was no safety valve for Minnesota to change things up and try to beat them on the ground. There was nothing of the sorts. You can't do that to this team.
And what's the difference between the Eagles and just about every other NFC team outside of the Commanders? They have a mobile quarterback. I mean, it's just completely different than playing any other type of offense. At the end of the day, people can shit on Jalen Hurts all they want, but he presents a dynamic that pretty much no other quarterback in the NFC is offering. And you can say Jaden Daniels for sure. Obviously, he's an even better mobile quarterback from the looks of it, but he doesn't have the talent as well. And I don't think he has the prowess in decision-making that Jalen Hurts has to go along with his experience, man. This is a guy that's been to the Super Bowl at this point in his career. He's had how many trips to the playoffs now? How many playoff games has he played at this point? So Jalen Hurts is an advantage going into postseason games, whether people like to believe that or not, man.
I agree. And it's one of the things it's not talked about.
Why is Jalen better than him? Because he can run the football. He can use that mobile ability, man.
Right. But there's going to be the topic of conversation throughout this week is going to be, I would rather have Jordan Love than Jalen Hurts.
Yep, you're going to hear it all week.
Go home, give me Jordan Love over Jalen Hurts. Did you see what Jordan Love did on the road to the Dallas Cowboys last year in the wild card round? Did we just forget about that? And again, to your point, like, so then we just forget about 2022. We forget about everything else that number one has done, right? But
before this week, I mean, they would have said Sam Darnold. So there would legitimately be a large group of people out there that will say, I'll take Sam Darnold over Jalen Hurts. Okay, he's throwing balls into the like fucking 20th row of the fucking stands last night in the red zone, dude. You have Justin Jefferson wide the fuck open. Let's hit him. You know, like
hit him once.
Yeah, that showed me all I needed to see from Sam Darnold. Dead ass.
I agree, dude. And that's the other thing I'm thinking about too is we're talking ceilings, but then I like want to think about, man, like let's just say it's not your day or it's a defensive battle. Like, what is Jalen's versus other quarterbacks? What is the Eagles versus other teams? What's their floors? Like, what's their basement, right? Like, because we've seen bad Jalen earlier on in the year. He had two interceptions in a game, like 2 fumbles in a game. Like, we've seen Jalen be sloppy with the football, not be efficient, etc. Is that Jalen's floor? Like two turnovers, whatever? Because I've seen Jared Goff throw 5 interceptions in a game this season. You bring up what Sam Darnold did last night. Like, what is the floor? Because when things go and get tough in cold weather in a divisional round playoff game, and maybe the defenses are locked in, are the Eagles up here and other teams? Like, that's the other thing. Like, everyone wants to talk ceiling. Ceilings get to a Super Bowl. On your worst day, what's our floors like versus you? And that's another thing where I think the balance of this team comes into play.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Ryan, he's here. He is here.
Yes, sir. Hey, Tanner McKee balled out. Wanted to get Callie Green's comment here.
Hey, I agree.
That is one that will have me sweating, man. As if a game comes down to this guy, I'm probably gonna close my eyes, man. Because that would be the only concern.
Was that from 40 yesterday?
39? 39? It's windy, but I don't care. Like, it's 39 yards, man. Like, you're a professional NFL kicker.
It is a problem because, again,
maybe you throw it away if he hasn't been like this the whole season, but he's been inconsistent all year.
He has 1,000%. And I said this, I said this to you a couple weeks ago, but it is something to keep an eye on because it changes how you attack on offense. It changes your thoughts with field position and everything, right? Like if it's late in the game and it's high game, I'm not even talking about like going for it, right? Like because there could be areas where it's 4th and 3, 4th and 4. And earlier in the season, we were saying, Nick, unless it's 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, take the fucking points. It's a 42-yard field goal, take the points. Now you're rethinking that, right? You don't know how shaky Jake is. From a field position standpoint, man, let's say it's a 17-17 ball game. Your defense has been really good. The offense gets you a 55, 56-yard field goal attempt with 2 minutes left. But if Jake misses, they're getting the ball close to midfield with 2 minutes left to go end the game with a field goal of their own. So now everything like that starts to change. And I got to say this. I watched this yesterday. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to it in the games I've been to before. Maybe it's a routine of his. Maybe it's something he does all the time. I didn't see the Giants kicker go and do it once. I didn't see any other player go and do it. When he missed that 39, 40-yard field goal in the first half, Scotty, every time there was like a timeout or like change of possession, he ran out, jogged out onto the field and like lined up around like the 35 and like did like a practice kick.
Really?
I don't know if that's routine for him. I'm not like just trying to.
Interesting.
If it's not, he is so far up his own head right now.
Was he nailing them at least?
No ball.
Oh, no ball.
Just
Whoa,
out and like, lining up and then just giving a swing of the leg and then jogging back off the field. He could do that every time, possibly.
He might,
I'm not sure. I'm not just like making up some story, but what he was doing yesterday. After he missed specifically is when I started to notice it, and I'm like, dude,
it's concerning.
That's not routine for you. That tells me all I need to know about your mental space at the moment.
Yeah. And the one thing when you start, just picking out little differences between teams, that's one thing I saw with Detroit last night. Their kicker can kick them, man. Especially when they're in their own house, man. You're indoors. You're going to be able to kick it a little bit farther. But I did, it's something that I found interesting yesterday, just seeing how Dan Campbell and is it Kevin O'Connell for the Vikings?
Yeah.
It almost felt, and I only bring this up because we talk about Dan Campbell versus Nick Sirianni a lot on this show. Sure. It felt like Kevin O'Connell kind of got it out of himself last night. It felt like Dan Campbell kind of got in Kevin O'Connell's head last night with the decision making. They get into the red zone. They go. How many times did they go for it on 4th down inside the 5-yard line?
The Vikings?
Yeah. Was it like 4 or 5 times, man?
So I'm gonna go try to check real quick.
I believe they were down there 4 or 5 times and they kicked 1 field goal, but they did not score a touchdown last night. So I don't know, man. It's just something I'm thinking about with Nick Sirianni is, who wins that little head game, that little coaching battle, that little should we just go for it every time because they might score 7 type of thing. Kind of like what we saw in the Super Bowl with KC. Obviously, that's a little bit further down the line, but something to think about as we go through these playoff matchups. Coaching style. Matt LaFleur this weekend. Is he going to feel pressure from Sirianni in our offense and how we go for it in short yardage to the point where he goes for it the entire game just to try to feel like he's keeping up? So that's something interesting to pay attention to as well as coaching styles.
I don't know where it doesn't say field position or anything, but there were 3 Minnesota turnover on downs last night.
And I believe they were all inside the 10-yard line at least. Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about forcing an issue? And there was a point in time in this game, man. I mean, it was going almost at halftime. It was 7-6. And then obviously they get a few. It's 10-6 at halftime. And I believe then they made it 10-9. And like halfway through the third quarter, Minnesota almost has a pick 6. And then it's like a 3-possession game like 4 minutes later.
Yeah.
Like things just got so out of hand.
Sam Darnold looks so in his head, man. Like, just, I don't know.
That's what I'm talking about, man. When you want to talk about trust and you want to talk about belief and confidence, You're gonna look at other head coaches that are gonna be here for the first time. You're gonna look at quarterbacks, young or been around the block, that you just don't trust. People go, oh, what the Vikings have been so good. Yeah, okay. Let me go watch Sam Darnold in the playoffs and then see how it continues to look. And that was the closest thing you got to a playoff game this season for the Minnesota Vikings. And they look unprepared. They forced the issue too much. And the quarterback had probably his worst game of the season. They scored 9 points against a defense that has given up like 43 different times this year to other good playoff teams.
Yeah.
That's a problem for you.
Yeah.
Okay. You talk about Jaden Daniels. First time, you're like Jordan Love. Just pump the brakes with some of these takes, man, when you watch regular season football and come up with these ideas and just completely dismiss things that this team and this quarterback have built over the last 4 years. So, yeah, to say the least, if you're not catching on, I'm fucking confident in Sunday afternoon.
I feel it, man. I feel
out of this world confident. Like I'm already planning. Like, oh, like next weekend. Like I wonder where I'm watching the divisional round game. Like that's how confident I am in this Sunday, and it's gonna hurt like hell if they have an epic fucking collapse and disaster. But that is just not on my bingo card, man.
Yeah, I agree, man. I really do. We're gonna see how it plays out. I think across the board, you got some matchups in the NFC here, man. The Vikings visiting the Rams, Commanders visiting the Bucks. So we'll see how these play out. Obviously, should be some great matchups across the board. Eagles beat the Packers. They play the winner of Commanders and Bucks. So it's going to be an interesting road. Let's just get
we could end up getting our wish. We could not our. We could end up getting both teams that we could have had slotted in the 7 seeds. So definitely keeping an eye on that game. And then you're going to have people out there that are going to want Jaden Daniels and the Commanders because Baker and the Bucks have have our numbers as our number, and they're going to be Jaden. Like, all right, like take it. Let's forget about that week 4 110-degree weather where we're missing half of our starting offense. And let's see what they look like coming up here in a divisional round.
Bring in the Philly playing, below freezing weather. See what Baker looks like.
Right, like what, dude? We've played Tampa Bay 3 or 4 straight times in Tampa Bay since they've last been here.
Yeah, because we beat them in regular season. We play
Tampa Bay again next year. The schedule was released already for not the weeks, but like the opponents home and away. We play in Tampa again next season.
We beat them last year in Tampa during the regular season, then played them again.
Yeah, and lost.
In the postseason and lost. So, I feel you. Joel from the books, the look of the books, Joel is not playing tonight. So, the line moved. They were like 4-point favorites, I think, against the Suns. Now they're like, it's basically even at this point. And I did not see any Joel props, so I know it was a game time decision.
But like, can I ask you a question?
Yeah. What's up?
Well, he said no, he's out now. It's on.
He's out.
No KJ Martin, no Kyle Lowry, no Joel Embiid, and Kelly Oubre Jr. is a game time decision. But my question is, because I didn't see, I saw like clips and stuff from the Brooklyn game, and the boys were having fun.
Yeah.
That took place on Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why is he not playing? Like, did something happen? Like, why is he out tonight?
I wish I could tell you, man.
Like, I
wish I could tell you.
Unless, I'll go on Twitter after this and I'll see. Is it like, is the knee swelled up? It didn't respond well from this last game. Like, I need a reason because you cannot give me a load management explanation here. Like, this cannot be a rest. You had a day off yesterday. You just missed a game.
Day to day with a sprained foot. He heard it a couple games ago, and it's been trying to get back in there, but not good enough to go today, but nothing major.
Yeah, dude. I can't deal with it. And then they had a ball on Saturday. They played arguably their best game of the season, albeit against a bad team, but whatever. Yeah. Joel's having fun. He's fired up. Yabusele's dunking on dudes' heads. It's fun. When the fuck did this dude get another injury?
That when did they say that it happened? Because I do remember seeing the foot. I remember seeing the foot injury sometime last week or the week before. It was right around that Kings game, right before the Kings game, I think, that he picked that up. But it is funny, man. I'm not going to sit here and argue with these guys. You're not wrong. At the end of the day, this guy's got to play basketball games. You got the Suns tonight. They're a team that's not playing very good basketball either, despite the stars that they have on their roster. They're making some starting lineup changes. They're taking Nurkic and one other, Bradley Beal. They're taking out of the starting lineup, so they're making some changes over there.
They are really hoping.
You need to get these dubs. You need to get these dubs. You got the Suns tonight. You got the Wizards Wednesday. You got the Pelicans Friday. Magic, no Franz, no Paolo on Sunday. You got to get some W's in here because after that, brother, OKC, Knicks, Pacers, Bucks, Nuggets, Cavs, next 6 after that. So you better get some fucking W's this week because the next 2 weeks are going to be complete fucking hell.
Yeah, I mean, look, and we're
as if it hasn't already been, but
we're going to find out a lot about this team. Martian's talking about that legacy run, and they went on a solid run. Outside of losing a back-to-back on a West Coast trip, they've still won what?
7-3 in their last 10.
But yeah, they've still been playing good basketball. You're going to find out about, Joel and his ability to play, every other night and continue to play against tough and good competition. How the big three look against some of the better teams in the league and the Knicks and the Thunder, like you're talking about. So, yeah, you obviously need to pick up these wins before things go and get tough. But then you can't just completely shit your pants when things go and get tough. Because I don't know exactly what that tells me about you. Now, you had the season-changing win. You went into Boston and beat them for 4 quarters on Christmas Day in the middle of this good stretch you've been on.
Let me ask you this. Did they have another season-changing loss against Sacramento? And that's
we
the question moving forward, right?
We talked about that.
Because that was backbreaking.
I think the Brooklyn win maybe shut that. Like, I know you came out and got your ass beat following the Golden State, but you beat Brooklyn. You didn't just beat Brooklyn. You beat them by almost basically fucking 30 points, right? So you responded the way I needed to basically see you respond. The big three played. They were having fun. It's like the most energetic I was seeing Joel. So just try to maintain this a little bit, man.
The Suns are in the middle of a 4-game losing streak right now. So they're coming into Philly with a 4-game losing streak. They're 3-7 in their last 10. And you just know they're going to win tonight. We will be the Suns get right game. But, prove me wrong at the end of the day. They've already proved me wrong in the other aspect of last week and all the excitement I was getting into before that Sacramento and Golden State back-to-back. Prove me wrong, man. Get some W's. Let's get some W's this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Embiid is becoming a joke, man. He's becoming a big laughing stock. And there's just no way I can defend it anymore. I can't.
Right.
So
all right, because again, it's just and maybe it's just cover up because they don't want to say load management and maybe they get fined, whatever the case is. But if you're releasing that he hurt his foot a week ago or 5 days ago, well then what was he doing playing that late into the Golden State game when they were getting beat by 40? What was he? How did he drop 28 in a blowout against Brooklyn? Why'd you need him to play against Brooklyn if the foot, wasn't okay? And now all of a sudden, 2 days later, the foot's not okay when Kevin Durant and them come to town. Like, yeah, they've been underperforming. It's still Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
But you could play against the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know. They got me back and things are going good. They had an incredibly ugly loss followed by an uglier loss. And now this, and it's like, dude, like my point is, once you think things are starting to go well, he misses 2 of the last 4 games, Scott.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, and I know one was a back-to-back. Like, I get it. But,
Consistency.
like, yeah, you think, like, all right, we're starting to build. He's now missed 50% of the last week. Like, that can't fucking happen, man. And you just
At a
know when they
time where
get
we
to this
need
big
W's.
run you're talking about, you know he's going to miss, like, 2 of the games. You just fucking know it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Probably won't play against OKC, right? Or
Yeah.
it'll be Denver because that game is in Denver. He won't play in that one. Man, it's so wrong of me to say that as a Sixers fan, but that's what it's becoming, man. It's becoming expected from somebody who wasn't on that side originally.
Yes.
Like I was not in that crowd.
Yes. That's the problem. I've just become fed up.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I become like the fans start to get fed up because now for the last fucking half a decade, it's become this expected dark cloud like you're talking about. And if people just say something about it or, express the frustration, now it's, how some athletes stay on that side. They start to bark at the fans.
I love that one.
Something wrong. No, bro. I'm a Sixers fan. I'm a Joel Embiid fan. I like to see Joel Embiid play basketball.
Yeah.
Can you play basketball consistently for me or no?
Right.
That's all it is anymore. So.
No, I agree, man. I agree. 14-19 right now. They're in the 11th spot in the Eastern Conference. They're 2 games back or a game back of the Chicago Bulls for the 10 seed. You're like what, 3 games back of the 8 seed, the 7th. It's all still right there, as we've kept saying all season so far. But when are they going to make that ground is the question.
Well, I was just about to say to you, they are over this next week or so, they do have an opportunity to go on a little bit more of a run where you're right back around 500. If you can do what you're supposed to do before this tough stretch, you're maybe a game or 2 below 500, and now things get careful. But
no back-to-backs this week. If you take care of business this week, start tonight. Get a W against the Suns team. I get it. No Embiid. The Suns aren't good. They're not a good basketball team right now. Get a W tonight. Let's get W's this week, and we'll address that 6-game stretch when it approaches, right? That's what their mindset has to be right now. 1 game at a time. Get back on the right side. Yeah, do your fucking job, yo.
I don't disagree, Carl. And they have an opportunity to get right back around there. If they're a game below 500 to whatever it is, that's fine. Martian, we getting smoked.
We could. Hey, we might, Martian. I'm begging for.
He says we definitely could, right? Because like you said, Scotty, they're on a losing streak. KD comes in, doesn't miss. Beal comes off the bench and torches us. No joke.
Our only chance is a maxi heater. It is a maxi heater, and even then,
right, you're still.
It might not be enough.
Right, you're grasping at straws at that point. But all right, man, let's get you on out of here. You got to go talk more NBA in a few moments.
NBA show right after this, fellas.
You guys are new to the channel, or if you do watch, check out the link tree in our bio on Twitter at DSM_media. Check out the Scotty Talks NBA YouTube channel. They will be live there and on
To the Galaxy Pod YouTube channel. On YouTube. We're also on DSM-Media Twitter, so X, whatever you want to call it.
Follow, subscribe,
yes, sir.
Like, share. We added another 2 subscribers tonight. Keep climbing, keep joining us, and we will be back later on in the week talking more Eagles, Packers, NFL playoffs. We'll be live on Turf Talk as well. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of your Monday night.
Peace, everybody.